is deemed to have been made and seconded at this time. Therefore, the question is that this House do now adjourn. The Honourable Member.
For Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke.
Speaker, on behalf of the overtaxed residents of Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke, I ask this government if Canadians could expect any tax relief. Taxes on fertilizer and fuel are making food more expensive. This government's plan to enact the biggest excise tax in Canadian history will punish the hospitality sector before it has had a chance to recover from the government lockdowns. Seniors are asking how they're going to be able to afford to heat their homes this winter. And what was the government's response? The member for Winnipeg South stood in this House and questioned why Conservatives had not spent taxpayer dollars to fly on a junket to a luxury resort town in Egypt. Canadians are worried about freezing in their homes, and the government complains Conservatives aren't enjoying Egyptian beaches. In case there was any confusion about how the Liberals really feel about the Great White North, just look at the Minister for Labour. Last week, he said he was sick and tired of people complaining about the cold winter. It's almost as though the Liberal caucus has a bet to see who can be the most arrogant and dismissive of Canadians. And it's obvious from their responses in question period that these Liberals would rather be sitting on a sunny beach sipping margaritas and Mai Tais. It's ironic that the member for Winnipeg South would talk about the COP27 meeting instead of taxes, unless it's an admission that COP27 is all about ways to crank out new taxes. Less than a month ago, during these same adjournment proceedings, I asked these Liberals how many envirocrats and climate groupies would be going to COP27. Did they answer? Of course not. They never answer the question. We asked how many people they sent to COP27, and they answered that 0 Conservatives attended. They attack us for not attending, yet refuse to answer how many Liberals attended. COP27 is just a distraction from the carbon tax being imposed on Atlantic Canada. Their new fuel standards regulations clearly state that the cost will be borne disproportionately by rural Atlantic Canadians, yet Liberals claim nobody uses home heating oil anymore. The Liberals are clearly gaslighting Atlantic Canadians, then charging them a carbon tax on that same gas. Before any of these Liberals get up to spread more misinformation, I challenge them to read their own regulatory analysis. This isn't Conservatives saying it. This isn't the Parliamentary Budget Officer. These are the Liberal government's own words. Quote, it's estimated that provinces in Atlantic Canada would be more negatively affected by the proposed regulations. This is largely because Atlantic provinces use more light fuel oil for home heating than other provinces. Quote, this may be the most acute for seniors living in the Atlantic provinces, where they account for a higher share of the total population compared to other Canadian provinces and are also more likely to experience some of the highest energy expenditures in Canada proportional to income. End quote. The carbon tax is bad for everyone, but it's worse for Canadians in rural and remote communities. It's worse for Canadians on fixed incomes. For seniors living on fixed incomes in rural and remote communities, it could very well mean the end. Faced with a choice between heating and eating, at least rural Canadians had the option of hunting. Now this socialist government and its urban vegan elite base of voters want to take that away too. This government's been clear. They don't care about costs they impose on Canadians, and they're tired of hearing people complain about it. Will the parliamentary secretary disavow the Minister of Labour's statement, or is he or she also tired of Canadians complaining about being left out in the cold?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, I would like to address the question of pollution pricing. Our government knows that putting a price on pollution remains the most effective way to fight climate change while making life more affordable for Canadians. Not only does pollution pricing ensure it is no longer free to pollute anywhere in Canada, for 8 out of 10 Canadians who receive the climate action incentive payments, the federal pollution pricing system actually puts more money back into their pockets. Madam Speaker, climate action is no longer a theoretical political debate. Addressing it is an economic necessity. The reality is that Canadians are confronted every day with more extreme events such as floods, hurricanes, and wildfires. A few months ago, the Parliamentary Budget Officer published an analysis showing that climate change has and will continue to negatively impact the Canadian economy. Responsible governments can only grow the economy and make life more affordable for Canadians if they have a responsible climate plan. The member opposite, respectfully, has neither a credible plan for the environment nor the economy. However, I would also like to reassure my honourable colleagues that our government understands that many Canadians are struggling to make ends meet, and that many are worried as our country's economy faces a period of slower economic growth due to the global challenge of high inflation and higher interest rates. Still, inflation in Canada, is high, and we know that Canadians are feeling it when they go to the grocery store, fill up their tanks, and pay their rent. The good news, though, Madam Speaker, is that there is no country better placed than Canada to weather the coming global economic slowdown and thrive in the years ahead. Our country has a AAA credit rating and has the strongest economic growth in the G7 so far this year, and the lowest deficit and net debt to GDP ratios in the G7. In fact, we've strengthened that advantage over the pandemic. And our unemployment rate continues to be near its record low. We do appreciate, though, that this will continue to be a difficult time for a lot of Canadians. It's a difficult time for our families, our friends, and our neighbors. That is why the government is supporting Canadians who are most affected by inflation. For example, by doubling the GST credit for 6 months, we will deliver $2.5 billion in additional targeted support to roughly 11 million individuals and families, including more than 50% of our Canada seniors. And I thank the member opposite for supporting this measure. Canadians will even start to see some more of these targeted measures this week. On Thursday, December 1st, Canadians can begin applying for the Canada Dental Benefit. That means that parents of kids under the age of 12 will be able to claim $650 per child for visits to the dentist. We are also moving forward with new measures introduced in our fall economic statement a few weeks ago. For example, Bill C-32 would make the federal portion of all Canada student loans and Canada apprenticeship loans permanently interest-free, including those that are currently being repaid. We are making major investments in housing affordability, and our key benefits are indexed to inflation. We have a world-class childcare program and have cut costs by more than 50% just this year, and we've reduced taxes for the middle class and for small businesses. Madam Speaker, we'll continue to work hard to make sure that life is more affordable in Canada and to grow an economy that works for everyone. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke.
Madam Speaker, with every word the Parliamentary Secretary just uttered, he emitted carbon dioxide. If Canadians could charge a carbon tax on Liberal speeches, we'd retire the national debt. Sadly, these Liberals never pay the price for their verbal pollution. This climate cult is intoxicated on green Kool-Aid. They fervently believe the end is near and we must repent for the sins of capitalism. Only by adopting the communism to which this Prime Minister openly admires can we be saved by the ravages of a warmer climate. The Minister of Labour is obviously tired of reality not conforming to his climate creed. He's not truly tired of Canadians complaining about the winter. He's tired of winter undermining the precepts of his climate cult. Well, Madam Speaker, Canadians are tired of this arrogant, entitled government.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, I think Canadians can